As Nigerian businesses begin the recovery process in the aftermath of the ENDSARS protests and the looting across the country, we continue our assessment of the country's legal system. And at this time, we examine the business environment in relation to the protections that they're supposed to get from the law. Joining me to discuss the legal industry's role in protecting Nigeria's business environment is managing partner, Chancery, Strand Lyon Associates, Charles Adeyemi. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thanks for joining us. In what ways can Nigeria's legal framework protect the business environment better?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Basically, it depends on what context you're asking. Usually, for riots and stuff, riots would usually come under force majeure in business contracts. So when it's riots, it's really hard for people to get protection, and that's where the second aspect would come in, which would be insurance. Insurance is important. People that have insurance would be able to benefit from having stuff that vandalism. It'll be a way to rebuild. Insurance will be a good way to rebuild. Now, how does the legal environment help? The legal sector would help with making sure insurance claims are done adequately and are done appropriately, and then that makes it easier for the insurance company to actually pay out. So that's as far as the legal sector can go.
Great stuff. Are Nigerian business owners saying that multiple times at the same time, well aware of this, and what's the awareness campaign like in your view, since you're in the field?
What's the awareness campaign like? Okay, usually for a business, as a business registered in Nigeria, you are supposed to have a company secretary. A company secretary is usually a lawyer or a chartered secretary. A company secretary will usually keep you abreast of the legal help available to you. Also, insurance companies would also advise, on how to go about making a claim, because a lot of people haven't actually made claims before, is what we actually find. On sensitizing people and letting people know what their rights are, the easiest way to go about that is having a relationship with your lawyer. Having a relationship with your lawyer, you would get the information you need. Apart from that, really, there's not much help, to be honest, apart from, people going online and stuff. But then again, it's a relationship with your lawyer that would help that happen.
And great stuff. Are there any impediments to these interactions between businesses and the legal side of things? Are there any impediments at all getting across the hurdle in order to get these going?
To be honest, the biggest impediment you would face is finding a good lawyer, really. There are a lot of good lawyers out there. There are a lot of good law firms out there. So it's a matter of doing your shopping in a sensible way, looking for references as well, and looking for the right law firm to provide the kind of advice that you do want, and that you do need. A lot of contractual obligations cannot be met right now. First of all, you had COVID, that was a very, very big problem for business in general. Then you had the whole SARS thing, the ENDSARS protest that happened, which I was actually quite proud to have witnessed in my lifetime. You had that happen. So a lot of things that are supposed to have gone on have not gone on, and because of that, businesses have lost a lot. However, what we do find is, at this point now, people are looking at different ways to, make claims, get back on track, and get their businesses back to what it was or what it used to be. Now, another problem we do find is that people don't come to lawyers at the beginning, when they do need the advice the most. So what ends up happening is usually people start business, they go about their way, and then it's when they have to fill in an insurance claim form or they have to manage a claim, from their insurance provider, that's when they will now get the lawyer involved. And then it's a bit harder for the lawyer to do his work then, because he's just been brought into it. And if there was a history, then it's easier for him to do it. Apart from that, there are other ways you go about. For example, the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission has a one-stop shop, and they provide legal help as well for different businesses, especially businesses trying to get a foothold in the Nigerian market. So it is something. It's basically your ability to actually find the best lawyer for your business and to advise you in your own peculiar circumstances that would be the difference between you getting proper advice and you not getting advice at all.
Great stuff. So what about costs? I mean, if you take a macro view of Nigeria, as far as legal representation, kind of assistance that businesses need, especially for startups and SMEs. Can they afford to be properly protected by the legal framework?
Okay. In Nigeria, I must first of all stress that there is a Council for Legal Aid. I've never done anything with them before, but I know there is a Council for Legal Aid. And then you also have different agencies, different organizations that try to provide legal services. Now, for startups and SMEs, I know a lawyer, people usually say to themselves, okay, let me go ahead and register my company and start up my business. Let me forget about the lawyer, absolutely. Now, I can understand why they do that, because finance can be a big deal and getting a good lawyer is not cheap, For example, if you're going to register a company, a lawyer would charge you his professional fees, But the difference with that is that you would get the advice. Now, there are a lot of lawyers that do some pro bono work for clients, but usually, as far as I know, people try to stay away from business because at the end of the day, you are going to make money from that business. So the lawyer's idea would be maybe you don't deserve that pro bono treatment. Also, in my firm, we did something for startups. We did something for tech startups about 6 months ago where we said we were taking on 10 tech startups on a retainership basis. And we were going to take on these companies, and provide legal services to them pending the time they were going to make money. So there are deals like this. There are people who would offer that kind of advice. But then again, you, the prospective client looking for legal advice, needs to go further and do your research. You need to look at what you can find. You need to look at which law firms out there are going to provide for you, as a startup or as an SME. But for the already established companies, if having a law firm on your retainership is not something that you've done already, it is something that you should probably look at, because then your lawyers are able to advise you better. And basically, that makes your life easier, really, in today's business climate where everything just changes,
Great stuff. So if I understand you correctly, for new businesses that are just getting off the ground, because they're not there's no profits rolling in the first year, 2-3 years or so, it's better to pool together so they can get a group of startups like the 10 that you provided your services to. A group can be jointly represented by one firm, and they can save costs that way. Did I understand you correctly?
Not at all. I'm saying that some law firms may provide the kind of service that I provided, where I said I was signing up 10 different tech companies and providing legal services for them for the first 2 years, to get them to an extent whereby they would be able to afford my fees, and then they can now pay me when they start making money.
Gotcha. So that is a clear and existing challenge for new businesses getting off the ground, in that because they're not bringing in money yet, that might put off some firms to providing their services because they're not able to pay them. That's just a reality.
That is the reality, of course. To practice law in Nigeria is not cheap. You do have to buy your wig and gown, which is not cheap. You have to buy books. You have to know what you're doing, and it is a very, very demanding job. For you to represent your client properly, the lawyer needs to get paid properly.
Gotcha. Understood. All right, we've got about a minute left. Any lessons to be learned from what we've seen with vandalism, destruction to businesses, as far as what the legal services can provide it?
Once again, it's the lifelong lesson. As my mother would always say, it is the lifelong lesson of making sure you are insured first. And also, in a case where insurance is not the norm, where you have the proper legal protection. For example, we understand how the business climate can change suddenly. Even if we didn't have problems like riots and vandalism, there are problems at times where two people start a business and then there is a fight, and all of a sudden the partners are not getting on. We wouldn't set up a company. A good lawyer wouldn't set up a company without having a shareholder agreement first, to mitigate the risks of stuff like that happening.
Gotcha.
So,
Great
it is important.
Thank you so much for your time. Great advice. Charles Adeyemi, Managing Partner, Chancery, Strand Lyon Associates. Appreciate the legal advice and insight from you today. We appreciate you coming on the show.